America is often assessed on its core values. Anne-Marie Slaughter defines these as liberty, democracy, equality, justice, tolerance, humility, and faith. But which are the most important? To me, justice, tolerance, humility, and faith. Justice is defined as righteousness, equitableness, or moral rightness. In other words, it is the quality of being fair. In American history, justice can be found in the Brown v. Board of Education case and the civil rights movement directly following that. The Brown v. Board of Education case dealt with segregation in public schools in the 1950s. Many blacks felt that the idea of separate but equal was unjust and continued to protest, eventually earning more rights. The Brown v. Board of Education case decision led to the civil rights movement in which African American civil rights leaders stepped up and defended their rights as Americans. People like Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King Jr. stood their ground and demanded equal rights for blacks and helped promote equality, which led to better treatment of African Americans. Today, there is still a long way to go, but looking back, progress has been made. In addition to blacks submitting to the dominance of the white community, women have also felt the power of men over them. Women have long been considered powerless when compared to men, and have been fighting for equality since the beginning of time. In 1972, Title IX granted equality to everyone regardless of gender in order to close the gender gap between men and women in terms of employment, divorce, poverty, and other matters. Title IX states that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. In short, women must be treated as equal to men. Although women are still sometimes treated differently than men, it is evident that the gender gap is getting narrower. The idea of justice and the act of wanting justice has proved to be an important aspect in American history. With justice comes tolerance. Tolerance is defined as a fair, objective, and permissive attitude toward those whose opinions, beliefs, practices, racial or ethnic origins differ from one's own. In terms of religion, the First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. As a part of the United States Constitution, it is clear that the First Amendment is a crucial part of America, and freedom of religion shows a tolerance to all different faiths in the U.S. In addition to the First Amendment, Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights indicates that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, including the freedom to change religion and to manifest religion in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Both of these documents tolerate religion and make it free, thereby making the United States a more perfect union. Recently, sexual orientation has been an issue between supporters and opposers of the LGBTQ community. Because homosexuality was illegal at the time, police raids were frequent, arresting those who did not wear at least 3 gender-appropriate pieces of clothing. In 1969, the gay community performed a series of violent acts against a police raid at Stonewall Inn in Manhattan. The Stonewall uprisings led to the creation of numerous gay rights organizations, including the Gay Liberation Front and the Human Rights Campaign. In 2016, Obama designated the Stonewall Inn and other riot sites as national monuments. The Stonewall riots eventually allowed sexual orientation to be free and ultimately increased tolerance in the United States. While some people still do not support those that are part of this community, there are multiple days that have been dedicated to LGBTQ pride. The tolerance for freedom of religion and freedom of sexual orientation has grown over the past few decades, especially with many different holidays celebrated for those groups of people. In terms of leadership, a leader must have certain qualities that make him or her a great leader. One of these qualities is humility, defined as being humble and not arrogant or boastful. Instead, accepting achievements with low self-regard. One humble individual in American history is Martin Luther King Jr., a civil rights activist who stood up for black rights but never stopped to acknowledge his own triumphs. King was arrested during a protest in Birmingham, Alabama. Especially in the South, blacks faced constant segregation and potential violence, justifying King's actions along with many other members of the black community. In his letter from a Birmingham jail, King states, "If I have said anything in this letter that overstates the truth or indicates an unreasonable impatience, I beg you to forgive me." Instead of simply arguing his point, King asked for forgiveness in the event that the letter seemed unmannered or uncivil, or indicated that King wanted to victimize the whites and put his achievements above theirs. King was a well-known individual as a leader of the civil rights movement. On the other hand, Ronald Reagan is not one of our most distinguished presidents, but served for 2 terms from 1981 to 1989 with humility and modesty. Thomas Merton, a Trappist monk, has said, "We must be content to live without watching ourselves live, work without expecting immediate reward, love without instantaneous satisfaction, exist without special recognition." Reagan lived by this and held a strong belief in Merton's ideas. Reagan also argues that we must not seek recognition because our nation was built by men who dedicated their lives to building our country for the sake of their children and countrymen, without taking the time to worry about receiving recognition for their efforts. America was built on the quality of being humble. The fourth and final core value is faith. Faith is what has led America to be the country it is now. Faith is defined as an allegiance to duty or to a person, as well as a firm belief in something for which there is no proof. Without faith or hope, it would have been impossible to get through some of the toughest experiences the United States has gone through. In September of 2001, one of the most devastating events in American history happened. As we all know, the September 11th attacks were a series of 4 coordinated terrorist attacks by the group known as Al-Qaeda. 4 passenger airlines were hijacked by Islamic terrorists and crashed into the 2 World Trade Centers and the Pentagon, while another crashed before reaching its final destination of Washington, D.C. The hope and support that the citizens of the United States had during this time helped everyone get through it. The faith that we held in the firefighters who searched for bodies from day to day kept them going and ultimately saved many lives. These values, justice, tolerance, humility, and faith, are only 4 of the 7 core values that make America what it is today and are embraced by American history. As Abraham Lincoln has said, America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves.